7:01 on Monday, October 28th, 2024. We'll call the school board meeting to order. All board members are present this evening. We did not receive a request for open comments or public comments this evening. So we'll move on to the agenda. There is one addition that I'm aware of right now, and that's going to be under the consent agenda. So that memorandum of understanding that got passed down there, we will add that to be approved. So the memorandum of understanding is to allow Union 70 employees, passes to the activities, which matches up with the certified union staff. So add Union 70 memorandum of understanding to be approved. Are there any other additions, subtractions to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve with that MOU added.
So moved.
Motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Shannon. Any further discussion on the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 5.0 is the student council. Come on up, ladies.
At the beginning of the year, we elected our 2024-2025 officers, which included president, vice president, treasurer / secretary, junior, sophomore, and freshman representatives. We assigned each grade a CERT project or inspired each to come up with their own.
We came up with the homecoming theme of this school year, Disco. The coronation was held Monday, September 23rd. We contacted the past homecoming king and queen to give a speech. As a school, we voted on the candidates along with the homecoming court. The dress-up days we decided were Monday, PJs, Tuesday, 70s day, Wednesday, crazy socks and hair day, Thursday, homecoming t-shirt / disco day, and Friday, school spirit.
For the activity portion of homecoming week, we compiled ideas of advisory challenges, a scavenger hunt, and door decorating. Grades evenings represent the middle school grades and staff, with the remaining grades having their own representatives. The advisory competitions we decided upon were pool race, musical chairs, relay, and scavenger.
With planning such events, we as the student council divided up into committees so we can best divide and conquer. Our committees are the coordination committee, which assembled all of the decorations, compiled a playlist to play at coordination, contacted peers to be in charge of the spotlight for each of the candidates and of the homecoming court, handed out programs to audience members, and this year we had our foreign exchange student, and they contacted her to give a speech. We had the post-homecoming game activity, which they gathered materials for the activity, planned events, cleaned up at the end, contacted chaperones, and led some rounds of bingo. Finally, we had our advisory game committee, which planned the activities each week, helped set up such activities, find MCs to explain the game of each day, and determine how many people were eliminated each day, along with candidates for each.
At our most recent meeting, we signed up for secret teachers so we may give gifts to them over the course of the year. We began thinking of winter service projects that the junior class would be in charge of. A sign-up was created for American Education Week to have members bring bars for the staff. Ideas for the Veterans Day display begin as well.
Okay, any questions for student council? All right, thank you.
Great job. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to 6.0 is the honors and recognitions for the month.
Yes. And we can start with, do we have Kayla, Jan, and Hannah Oy present? Come on up. So these are recognition for participation at the state tennis tournament, and from what I understand, a upset victory against the #1 ranked team. Is that right?
Yeah.
Well done. Way to represent Black Pearl Valley Schools. Thank you very much. And then one more recognition, and this one was provided by Appleton Milan Elementary, is for Susan Persky. Come on. Susan has served as a Minnesota Reading Corps member for 4 years. And we only can have her in that role for 4 years, which I'm sad about. But Minnesota Reading Corps every year, every district I've ever been a part of, and here as well, they have some of the best numbers for helping students grow in reading. It's quite honestly oftentimes our best intervention, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to 7.0 with the live update from Robin.
Actually, I had Susan come along because I wanted to give her a little spiel about what Reading Corps is. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. So that was kind of the idea for her coming along, and obviously thank you for the recognition for her because this is her 4th and final year of doing it. So I thought I'd have her explain a little bit about what she's doing in the building.
Well, first of all, thank you, Robin, for giving me this opportunity to do this. I started in January of 2022, so technically I don't get a full 4 years, but they have to cut me off at some point. So I wanted to share just a brief stats about my tutoring over the 4 years. Overall, I've tutored 50 students. Some of those are repeat students, so I can only count them once. But out of those 50 students, 32 of them have exceeded the target growth, which is a 71.1% overall growth. Also those 4 years, I'm pretty proud of this. I've maintained a 100% fidelity report through all of my interventions and assessments, which means I follow my script, I follow the directions 100% when I'm watched by my superiors when they come in. I have many success stories throughout my 4 years, but one that comes into mind is a student that I've had since kindergarten. And during our sessions, he always tries his best, always. But he only just seemed to go up a little bit. But last year was definitely a turning point for him. But we adjusted his intervention just slightly. And all of a sudden I could see his confidence start to go up just little by little. By the end of the school year last year, he more than doubled his reading rate. And you could just see on his face how proud he was when I would tell him where he was at. Seeing their faces when you tell them what they get after their 1 minute timing is absolutely priceless. Another thing I would just like to share is that with the READ Act in place into our schools now, we are using the same system, FastBridge, that I am using with Reading Corps. So when I started this year, the assessment was already done for me, so I was able to start seeing students within the first week of school, doing my interventions and getting students in and helping them right away. Doing this job, I have found my passion, what I want to do, and I'm hoping I can continue doing this job in some form of capacity when my 4 years is done. I will truly, honestly miss this job. And I'm done.
We'll miss having you in it. Thank you very much.
So I just wanted to give you a little update, and it's been amazing. We can also have a math corps person, but we haven't had anyone showing any interest over in Appleton Milan. So come next school year, we're going to be looking for someone to try and replace that because it doesn't, so to speak, hit on our really, maybe our bottom readers. It kind of takes that middle of the road.
Middle tier.
Middle tier kids, and she gives them that little extra boost and that one-on-one time. So it is a really valuable thing that we have going on. So thank you guys. I just wanted to share that with all of you about what she is doing in our building. Just a couple little things. I'll talk about a couple school goals that Mr. Lemke set up for us as something new that we're doing this year. And the one goal I have for myself that I want to touch on is my chance to meet with the staff. You know, we have staff meetings and it's mornings and this and that, but now I'm setting up a time every month where I get to go in and take some notes and have a few questions that I have for them and then they can have for me. So we're doing that by grade level and also like the specialist teachers, you know, EL, special ed, all those, so I have times to go in and meet. Some of the things that I've learned after meeting with them is that it's been very beneficial. You know, a 5-minute conversation turns into 20 really fast about some things that, hey, this is going on, this is what I'm doing, could you check on this? One thing I wanted to bring up is we have UFly going on in first grade and kindergarten. UFly is basically, it's hardcore phonics, and they're doing a great job. I know Madison MMN has been doing it over there, so our first grade staff at Appleton had a chance to go over and observe Becky Olson over in Madison do it, brought back some great ideas, so they're pushing in those things at the kindergarten, first grade level for that. That's one thing I know. Our small group instruction, we do a lot of push-in services. So by that, we're having our EL staff, our special ed staff, they're all kind of taking a team, pushing in their services and working together in small groups. So instead of having, our second grade has 24 kids during reading time, we can break them into 7, 8 kids. And those groups are always rotating, so I'm really happy with that. It's a positive I'm hearing in our building. Also, we're having our push-in services with EL and special ed, so they're all working together on those things. And I think it's making a big difference in our building. One thing that I know that they brought up, and that was pretty common struggle right now, is the time to meet with our parents. Because we're using those in the classroom just alongside of our teachers, so when do they get time to meet? Because when the parents schedule, you know, they might be going out for recess or breakfast or lunch duty. They don't have that prep time to meet. So that's something I'm going to try to work on. Maybe it's 15 minutes during the morning time where they can sit down and meet. And I can go fill in the lunchroom or out in the playground. So they have time to meet with their teachers to better communicate what's going on. And the other thing I'm going to do for a goal this year is I know the high school does it, middle school and high school. They always report on their A and B honor roll. So this year for our 3rd and 4th graders, we're going to put the A and B honor roll students in the paper and just give them some recognition on things they're doing. So that's something new that we're also working on over at Appleton Milan. The rest of my agenda is on there. That's kind of a little bit of a snapshot of what's going on. I think our numbers are pretty good. Brenda, I think we're still sitting at about 185 kids over at Appleton Milan, so it's really good. It's pretty consistent. We actually just had a new student start today in 3rd grade. So it's been a pleasure. Teachers and staff and everybody are working really hard. Any questions you guys and ladies have for me?
Anything for Ron? Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, 8.0 is the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. September. Any changes to those minutes at all? Hearing none, I'll take a motion to approve as presented.
Make motion?
Motion by Shannon, second by Matt. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 9.0 is the gifts, donations, and grants for the month. So we again thank those people that are listed on page 4 there. Take a motion to approve. Motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Shannon. Any further discussion on the gifts and grants? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 10.0 is the consent agenda, again with that addition of the Union 70 memorandum of understanding. Okay, motion to approve.
Make motion?
Motion by Shannon,
I'll second.
second by Matt. Any discussion on the consent? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 11.0 is financial reports. Brenda.
Okay, quick comments on enrollment. Page 18 of your agenda packet. Last you looked at that back, last month was as of September 18th, and we're at 836. Now we're at about 832. So we're down slightly, potentially a loss at the high school of about 7. So we'll see what the other buildings report, but potentially 7 for the month of October. Fund balances, those are starting on page 23. The auditors have given me the okay to release these. They are currently working on finalizing the audit report. They have one more review by the partner in charge, and he will look through things one more time before they'll actually finalize everything and print the report. So I don't foresee any reason why we don't have that report in hand before the November board meeting so that we can hand it out and then include it in the agenda for December for board final approval, okay? Last month, we talked about everything except for the general fund. All of those numbers are now final. There were no changes, so I don't have any comments on those. We'll go through the general fund tonight. I will try to be brief. There's a lot of stuff in here. One thing to keep in mind, again, general fund is general transportation capital, student activity, and you do need to keep in mind each line has a little bit different meaning, a little bit different requirements and whatnot. So a lot of information. We have some very big numbers simply due to the fact that we cleaned out our ESSER this past year, 23-24, final expiration of the last piece of ESSER, which is ESSER 3, was September 30th. It was just this past month, and that was both the regular ESSER dollars and the learning recovery dollars we finished up on. Also, we have our carryover that was planned with the large additional funding that we got in the compensatory area. So we'll talk about that in just a minute here. So anyway, you have the general fund there at the top. First item there is the non-spendable. That's simply our health insurance. That's prepaid health. It's in a form that is it's a non-spendable form, so that's why we're required to set that aside. Next area is restricted and reserved. That is restricted and reserved based off of state statute. First two line items there are brand new. They're from this past legislative session. First line item there is literacy incentive. That is the first of three pieces of the READ Act. So those funds are set aside and will be used now in 24-25 for the new intervention position, part-time position. That would be Diana Smith. So those are the funds that will be used for that position. The other two pieces of the READ Act will come in 24-25. Okay. Again, with special requirements that follow those funds. The next line item, student support personnel aid. That is funds that we were not supposed to receive because we did not qualify. And that was via the 23 legislative session. Fast forward to 24 session, they figured none of the schools qualified, so what they did is said, you guys can have the money, you just have to set it aside. We do qualify for it in 24-25. We'll be using it for our elementary counselor position, a portion of that salary, which would be Samantha Mork in our elementaries. Safe Schools, that again is a restricted line item. Funds that go into there are revenues come in for the Safe Schools, expenditures go out for things such as our security system, our cameras, our camera software, our intercom system. You'll see that increase slightly. We're expecting to use some of those dollars for the building project for some brand new cameras that are needed throughout. And so that would either be the end of this fiscal year or the 25-26 fiscal year, and that will be the funding source for it. Next line item there, basic skills extended. That is a piece that the legislature repealed, so they required us to move it down into the next line item, which is compensatory, which is basic skills regular compensatory. That line item, you'll see it was zero in the past. The reason being is that is the piece of funding that went up dramatically. It's from our free and reduced lunches, lunch counts, and the reason why it went up dramatically, just to remind you, that is due to that pilot program that the governor put into place to try to capture more students that qualify for free and reduced lunches. Also the area that we're not sure what the formula is in the future or our population. So that is again the reason why we wanted to carry funds over. because those funds are used for some of the new positions that were added in the EL area. The Greater Minnesota contract that we have for counseling services, and a new position in the middle school, teaching position in the middle school. So that's kind of a safeguard, so that if our funding does go down, either population or the formula, we will have plenty of planning time, and because we'll be adding to this at the end of this fiscal year, we won't find out our formula until the legislative session. I believe they're tweaking it in that session, and we'll find out what our funds will be in that area. So we're very lucky to have a carryover, again, to protect those positions in those areas that we had needs. Operating capital, the next 4 line items are operating capital. We have them pulled out just so that you can cleanly see some of the details that we have going on there. If you look at that in the audit report or anything at the MDE level, they'll be combined into one, all 4 of those line items. So the first line item is our regular operating capital. That increased slightly. We had planned on spending most of it. It went up a little bit due to enrollment and also due to some miscellaneous funding that came in during the school year. Next line item is our rebate money. That's the money that came in with rebates related to the building project. So that currently is sitting at the same level as it was when it came in. Next item is insurance claim. That is, we have 3 insurance claims back in the 22-23 school year. That is what's left of that claim. The biggest piece left to address right now is the greenhouse in the back. So I know Adam's working on that, whether it's, the intent is and the goal is to put some sort of cold storage out there for custodial equipment is what we thought and the hope is. So he'll be working with Mr. Lemke on that in the next couple of months to try to get a plan together for addressing that need. And then there should be some funds left over once that has been taken care of. Next line item is building projects. So that is what is left of the $325,000 donation that we got from SiteLogic that was used to finish off the building project. And then on top of that, we had money left for signage, and now we're sitting at $123,000 at the end of 23-24. That will be used to pay for the new bleachers in the north gym, the electrical hookup for the new basketball hoops, and then the electrical hookup for the sound system out of the football field, and potentially a little bit more signage, but we do expect to have a little bit left at the end of this fiscal year, even after addressing all of those items. Long-term facility maintenance, that's the line item. We get about $330,000 in that each year. Also the line item that we use to pay for the LTFM bonds that were put out there during the building project. So that is about $220,000. So it leaves us about $100,000 to work with during the year. You see that increase at the end of this fiscal year simply because our parking lot expenses that were planned to go through there were very minimal because of the mild winter. They didn't have a lot of repair work that they needed. And also we had the roof drainage issue in the Madison building site that ended up not needing to have any repairs. That was out there for about $55,000, I think was what we budgeted for that. So that's was a good thing. So that's why you'll see an increase there. The next area is committed. That is committed based off of contractual obligations. First line item there is severance. So that consists of 2 groups of people that have, or staff I should say, that have retired. We can easily calculate that severance benefit. And then staff that are still actively working but have a vested benefit out there. So if they were to leave today, we would have severance benefits that we owe to those staff people. You can see it went down. We had nobody that was added from the teaching group, but we had 2 that went off of the schedule. And that changes every year as a person gets 1 more year of service and 1 year of age adding into their formula. QComp is the next line item. We keep that fairly low. Everything that comes in as far as QComp revenue goes out in QComp expenditures to the teaching group. Again, we keep it anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000. This will be the last time you see this in this line item. Past legislative session, we've always committed this in this area. Past legislative session has now put it as a restricted line item, so they're forcing us and asking us to put it up above, which is fine. Most schools don't track it. We've tracked it since day one, so it'll be real easy for us to move it up into the top area. Assigned, those are assigned for certain purposes. First item there is insurance. That dates back to June of '22 when the board decided to go with a little bit higher deductible so that we could get our insurance rates down. And that deductible was $25,000 for wind and hail. Now fast forward to June of '24 and lots of big changes. We now found out that our new policy dramatically increased for our deductible for wind and hail. So basically what we have on the table for deductible for that, if we would have some sort of wind or hail event, would be 1% of our valuation of our facility that is been damaged. So all buildings together was 1.2 million, and of course we don't have that sitting there, but our high school facilities would be 660 is what we would be committed to paying out if we had some sort of event. And Appleton is 172 and Madison is 278. So basically 450 would cover the two elementaries. So our goal would be to maybe to get that up to 675, so at least we would be covering the high school. And we'll have to have some discussion on what we would like to see in that line item moving forward after that. But our flooding deductible also went up, so not as high as our wind and hail. But again, something we'll want to reevaluate each year. Next line item is something we started the last school year, certain one-time future needs, special ed, and a little bit of ESSER that's in there. That will be used in the future to cover any unexpected changes in our special ed revenue. The auditors require us to book whatever the state has out there for revenue at the end of fieldwork time, and we know that that is just an estimate and it's based off of whatever has gone through the system so far. So we know it's typically too high or too low, and those numbers will find out not until spring. So that is to protect us so that we don't have to use any of our current operating expenditure revenue to cover any shortfall that we would have from the prior year. So you can see we did not have to use any of that this past year. Next two line items are brand new. That's our certain future commitments, ESSER. That's our ESSER $3. We talked a lot about that at numerous board meetings that we would be finalizing that due to the expiration of those funds in September, so that is carrying that forward. We do, however, have some commitments. There's some tails that were started with that ESSER programs that we still have expenditures with things such as the Letters program, the Grow Your Own program, our single audit costs, some of those sort of things. So there will be costs that we have to cover, and we do have a funding source obviously for that. It isn't $836,000, but we do have some funds or some expenditures that will need to come out of there moving forward into the future. Next line item, future infrastructure projects. That is based off of board discussion at various times throughout the past year, instigated by some comments that Danny Persicki had brought to light, that he was talking about set-aside dollars so that we wouldn't have to, that we'd have a source for deferred maintenance or roof projects, parking lot projects, things that we would have that are going to be well over that $100,000 that we have available in the LTFM area. So hopefully we can build on that a little bit each year, but 200 is a really good start as a source for that. Transportation, that is virtually our transportation fund. You see that increase slightly. We did purchase one school bus this past year, 61,000. Fuel was pretty much in line with what we've had in the past year. So again, just increased slightly by about $6,000. Last line item there you see on the top, unassigned, that's our unreserved unassigned fund balance. That is what our fund balance policy is based on. It increased slightly, which we would expect that to do because it's calculated based off of our operating expenditures. And we are sitting at our policy. Our policy is 2 months of operating expenditures. We are sitting at that, so we have met that goal for this past fiscal year.
Can I ask, so the 200 for the future infrastructure projects, did that just get pulled out of the unassigned?
Yes. Yep. The last 2 line items there in the middle, I pulled that out. It's a new area several years ago, but it's nice to have that Fund 21 sitting in a little section all in and of itself. That is our student activity and our fundraising area. Small changes there. You will see student activity, of course, is our student council, our honor society, our prom, our FFA, all of those different groups. And you will see a breakdown of all of those different groups, beginning balance, their activity, and ending balance. And I will put that into the, just a single piece of paper into your audit report before I hand it out to you. So you can easily see what each group has, what they've done this past school year, and it will balance to these funds that you see right here. So overall, even taking out the ESSER stuff that we knew we would be capturing this last school year, we had a very, very good year financially. Our enrollment did take a little bit of a dip in January, but it did recover towards the end of the year. And our early childhood counts really, really came in strong. They're hourly based, but there was a lot of activity there, and it was 100% based off of student need of those age students. Those students that are under the kindergarten threshold, so they're under age 5, and sometimes under age 6. Interest was very strong. Our special ed dollars were up. Expenditure side, our utilities were down. We had such a mild winter. A couple things we struggled with was keeping staff employed. We had some open positions. EL wasn't filled until January. There was a full-time position set aside for that the whole school year. And a little bit of turnover. So all in all, the numbers look really, really good for end of 23-24.
I have a question for you, Linda.
Yes.
So that operating capital insurance claim, $137 and change.
Yep.
That's that greenhouse. So my question is this: since it is a restricted reserve, can we or are we allowed to take that monies, set it aside? Let's just say, for example, we get 4% interest every 6 months, and we look at the future of 5 years when A&M in Appleton potentially needs a new roof for $500,000 or more. Instead of fixing up another storage area for maintenance equipment out here at this school, could we look at utilizing those monies to be invested for that particular project and call it the restricted reserve?
We certainly can. I mean, the storage, what they're looking at, cold storage, that would be something that Adam would be talking with Mr. Lemke on and talking to the board on, and if the board wants to go in a different direction, that's 100% your call on what to do with that. But these insurance claim dollars came from 3 different instances in that fiscal year. We had a real busy 22-23 was a very, it was almost as busy as this year. But and it was from the damage that was done at the Appleton site, that where they put that nick in the side of the siding. I don't remember how it happened, but something happened. And then we had some wind damage out here, and then we had contractor negligence at the Madison site. So all of those funds are in here, and what needed to be repaired has been repaired. And except with the exception of the greenhouse area, that's one thing that has been wanting to be addressed. But it's really the discretion of the district.
Well, the only reason I say the greenhouse piece is we built the grow room, or the grow room's in progress of being built. Hence, that's been met. But we're gonna need a roof. And that's a no-brainer. We know that. So, just food for thought, as you, Scott, and the chairperson started discussing this, that's just something that came to my mind. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I know this is a lot of information in one fund, but that's how the state does it. They put general conservation capital and student activity together, and I like to have it in here like this so that when you're looking at anything at the state level, you're looking at the audit report, the numbers are gonna be the same, and you can dissect them. This has actually quite a bit more detail than what you'll see in there, so at least then you have some reference, especially with all of the busyness that has been going on recently in our area with the insurance and the rebates and the building project and all of those different things. You can kind of see what those numbers are made up of and where they've come from, so. Other questions? Okay. One last little quick comment. In the agenda packet, you'll see that there's a shortfall in the capital fund already. That is the maintenance area. That is the lawnmower, the auto lawnmower that the board approved in July or early August. So that will be added to the budget come November. So I usually put an asterisk on situations like that because it looks a little unusual. But that will be updated in the November budget update. That's all I had. Unless there was any other questions.
Any questions from Brenda? Okay, thank you, Brenda. 12.0 is the bills and claims for the month.
I'll make a motion to accept the October 2024 board bills at $318,418.19. September 2024 manual checks at $69,474.19. And October 2024 construction bills at $1,423,109.11 with a total of $1,811,001.49.
Okay, got a motion by Eric, I will second that motion. Any discussion on payment of claims and bills? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, 13.0 is the annual multilingual learner updates.
Alright, Board, it is so great to get to talk to you again in October. Oh, that was intentional. I'm used to that in my classroom. Our purpose tonight is to update you on the progress of our multilingual programming and language growth of our English learners district-wide. Tell you what's new. Also, we are seeking board approval for LEAP, which is our language instructional education plan. We bring this to you each October, kind of tell you what has changed. So I've got myself here tonight, and also brought along my trusted teacher, Betty.
Hi, I'm Ms. Yassenberg. I'm working with the preschool, kindergarten, first grade.
So we'll kind of march through the presentation. The document that we'll be referring to begins on page 29 in our agenda. But first, some updates. When we visited this summer, we talked about our goal to create a lighthouse language instructional program for multilingual students. For how do you do it out here in rural Minnesota? And we set these anticipated numbers this summer. And I'm here to update you on kind of what do our numbers look like. That's included in the LEAP. And also, we talked about, even though we have made so much progress in this area, there's definitely still room for improvement and room for growth. So although although we have made gains, what does it take to look like an exceptional language development program? So that's what we are focused on. We don't just want to be okay, we want to be outstanding. One of the things we visited about in the summer was partnering with the University of Minnesota to certify our bilingual paraeducators to be trained interpreters. Part of the READ Act is that we need to guarantee that when families meet with the school to talk about the educational progress of their student, that they have access to a trained interpreter. Industry standard of a interpreter training program looks like 40 hours, something you do down in Minneapolis or maybe St. Cloud over multiple days. And so we needed to find a different way to access this with our staff out in this area. So the University of Minnesota approached us last year, said we are piloting this interpreter training program. It would be hybrid. We'll do some in person, some digitally. We have 2 professors at the U who have designed this 6 weeks. And so thanks to the support of the district in providing some training stipends, we marched through this program at the beginning of the school year. So I'm excited to say we have 9 bilingual paraprofessionals who are community interpreters certified now. And Melissa, Missy, and I were the 2 certified staff facilitators who helped with that training program. So I was extremely proud of our multilingual staff as we went through this, completing quizzes and doing projects and virtual learning assignments. It was a great partnership. So I wanted to report that is done. Check. Well, we hope moving forward that any bilingual staff that can come into the district that work as interpreters, that we will have them go through this program kind of annually, make sure all of our interpreters are trained. What was important about this is that it looked at principles like confidentiality, transparency, communicative autonomy. This is really important when you're trying to build trust with multilingual families. So we're just so proud of how that improved conferences, and I'll get to that data in a little bit. Other things that are part of this LEAP that you should know about that our staff has been working on as the school year began is our Q count focus this year, especially at the 512 level, is continuing to become experts on working with English qualified students and multilingual parents. So already this year, we have completed a training on Black Pearl Valley EL data and combined learning targets. So how do we write learning targets in our classroom that are not only focused on content, but also on improving our speaking and writing? That is how you learn a language. I don't know if anyone sat through a language class as a high schooler anywhere, and you go like, I sat through 3 years of Spanish and I still know none. We know that students learn languages best when they use them, speaking and writing, not just getting language input. So our staff participated in a dive into data that day as well, looking at our language proficiency levels of all of our students. Then just a week or so ago, we had some work time and professional development around the topic of creating EL accommodated assessments. So this is a day where Christina Rezel from our science department, Josh Benson from our social studies department, and one of our new teachers, Brenna Knudsen from our English department, all stood up and showed other staff, this is what I'm doing in my classroom for English learners. This is how I create a test for a student who's at a 1 on the English proficiency scale versus a student who's near exiting. So it was a really exciting day as staff to collaborate in that way. And coming up this week, we have a Micronation cultural presentation happening with some of our community leaders and some time to dive into culturally responsive teaching strategies. So to say that our IQ as a staff on this level has increased would be an understatement. It is such a treat to walk into our 512 teachers' classrooms and say, so you're this student who has a proficiency level of a 2 for listening, but a 1 for speaking, what are we going to do? And we're all talking the same language. I continue to be impressed by how we're taking the horns on this out here. Some things that we are interested in sharing with you today are some measures of effectiveness. So Black Coral Valley School Board annual review of the league takes place every October, and we look at these measures. We look at exit rate, so the percentage of students that are no longer needing to have EL services in our district. We look at the growth on the access test, which is the test that all English learner qualified students take every February, March. This is throughout the state of Minnesota, throughout the United States. Many states use the access test to measure English language proficiency. And then interviews with stakeholders. We just had our first meeting for the year of our multilingual learner planning committee. Shannon and Matt are the school board representatives of that. And that is one space where we bring all the stakeholders to the table to hear how are we doing. Here's some other things I'm excited to report. With a partnership with Appleton Area Health, we created a sports physical event this summer that had business sponsors for free sports physicals, and this has led to 11 new multilingual 7th through 12th grade students participating in fall sports at Black Coral Valley. Translated back to school night, so at the Appleton Milan building, we offered a translated opportunity for parents to come in and hear in their first language what they needed to know as we head back to school. Increased staffing at the 712 level, or the 512 level, means that now all EL students receive access to their EL teacher. I can't highlight that one enough because in the Appleton Milan building, where we are hitting appropriate ratios for our English learner teacher to English learners, we are seeing, you'll see in the data how that's leading to students growing and exiting. I can't wait to bring that to you in the next year or two as we do that in this building. And 512 fall conferences up here just a couple of weeks ago, we had a record of 109 translated parent-teacher interactions completed by our bilingual paras. I think their brains are on fire that night. They, even when offered breaks, did not pause. They were so committed to giving parents access to their teachers. So if you see any of our bilingual staff around, please tell them thank you. Here's the data to prove it. For an EL qualified student, when they take a standardized assessment like the MCA is something that's written at grade level. So if I'm a 5th grader taking the 5th grade MCA, that's written at a 5th grade level, if not higher sometimes. I think some teachers would argue. For students who are EL qualified, while the MCA is one data measure, I think the more important data measure to look at for those students is the access test. The access test they take annually. It measures English language proficiency in our 4 core content areas, in social studies, in math, in reading, and in science. And so I'm so excited to share with you today that building down in Appleton Milan, where we've had all these innovative things that Robin talked about, push-in services, small group instruction, we are seeing our English learner qualified students grow at almost double the state average. So I put on the slideshow that in 2023, in the Appleton Milan building, average progress towards ELP, English Language Proficiency Target, as measured by that access test. Last year, our district on that side in Appleton Milan was meeting statewide averages for progress towards English Language Proficiency. In 2023. In 2024, so as measured by spring of 2024, you can see that in the Appleton Milan building, where the state average was 46.4% of EL students making appropriate progress, in the Appleton Milan building, 78.1% of our English learners made appropriate English language proficiency progress. I'm just so proud of this. Like, that doesn't happen by accident. It goes the other way when we don't pay attention to these needs. So this is so exciting, and this is, Maureen, you've always been an advocate of every teacher is a language teacher, and we see that happening in that building, and it's showing great results. So hats off to the Appleton Milan staff. They have worked so hard, and it shows, and the earlier a kid is proficient in English, their trajectory just goes upwards, right? They can access content that grade level content earlier. So I'm so excited about this. This is just another proof in the pudding. Percent of ELs who are meeting their target. So last year in Appleton-Milan, the state average, or excuse me, in 2023 in Appleton-Milan, state average was 28.9% of ELs meeting their proficiency targets. And we were on par with the state 2 years ago. If you look at last year as measured by the Access, where the state was at 28.3% of students, our Appleton-Milan building went up to 53.6% of students. So again, our highly trained and engaged staff, our bilingual support. We know that students learn a second language faster when they have first language support. It's paying off in truckloads. So what I hope, I wanted to show you some comparison data. Here's our secondary building, our 7 through 12. In 2023, at the secondary level where we go, we had 1 teacher to 88 EL students this year. We see that that growth is far below the state average. The state average is 47.3, and our secondary building came in at 16.2%. We go 1 year ahead, and we see we're slowly gaining. We brought in a second EL teacher about January of last year, and as we started this school year, we brought in another one. We are almost at appropriate ratios, student-to-teacher ratios in this 512 building. Here's one more where it's meeting targets. So 2 years ago, 0% of students in this building meeting their English language proficiency target. Last year, we started to move the dial. So I can't wait to show you how this is going to grow as we do all the things and kind of hold up our end for these students that we need to. Any questions about the data? And then here's that exit measure. So in fall of 2022, we had no students exit EL services district-wide. Reminder that a student should be exiting services in 5 to 7 years. We see a student gain English proficiency. That's why we kind of target this middle school or junior high. If you started kindergarten with us, if there's no other learning differences or disabilities at play, we want you to exit EL by the time you hit 6th grade, for sure 7th grade. In fall of 2023, we had 3 students district-wide. Now, fall of 2024, we had 10 students qualified today. So we hope to just keep seeing that tick up. I talked about the multilingual learner planning committee we met, like I said, this past week. This is the stakeholders. In 2023, we addressed extracurriculars. In 2024, we addressed multicultural representation throughout the school district, and this year we're looking at content area instruction. So again, my husband told me before I came today, he's like, you should just be proud of everybody's doing so good. And I said, but we can't just do so good by these kids. We have to show them that they can be excellent, that they can be the leaders, that they have all the same academic potential as any other kid who walks through our door. So that's where we're diving in next. Also, we have a multicultural parent association. They met before the school year and will continue to meet throughout the year to address also. We talk about health needs. We talk about just school skills. How do you get onto JMC parents? Where are those? The LEAP addresses these things: EL identification, EL placement, description of our program, assessment and identification, EL programming exit, family communication procedures. We added a language access plan as part of the REDAC requirements this year, and then the appendices covers all the just legal forms and things. I just included the updates because this is now, you've seen this lots of times, so we're just going to talk about the updates on here. I do want to draw your attention on page 29 to the EL snapshot. This breaks down English learners as of October 23rd. In each building, percentage of students, and then percentage, it goes all the way down to the languages represented in our district. We added a new language of Afrikaans in our district this year. And when we look at total percent of students in each building, we continue to see an uptick in percent of students who are English learner qualified in the Appleton Milan Elementary building. And that, of course, as we come out to the big building, leads to little upticks in our 5th and 6th grade and 7th and 8th grade. Our high school continues to get the largest amount of multilingual students we've ever had. So it's fun to watch the staff embrace that, find the challenges, and collaborate to overcome them. New this year is service to our Appleton Milan preschool location. Through VPK requirements, voluntary pre-K, we service English learners on the Appleton Milan side of the school district. So Melissa might talk a little bit about what that's like when we get to kind of the teachers and what they're doing. We're excited to get to partner with families earlier in their school experience with our district and help onboard them and see how we can meet the needs. As we dive into the leap further, on page 35, changes that you'll see on pages 35 and 36 all the way into 37 are that because we now have more multilingual teachers, we can offer a lot more service models. So in those pages, I point out the different pull-out or content-based or newcomer programming that we offer, just dependent on the building. At the high school level, high schools now receive English language development for high school English credit because of some licensure that we sought. So I'm very excited for our high school students. We never want to restrict an English learner from needing to take any electives, just to meet a service need if at all possible. So we're finding creative ways to do that. I did want to let you know I've been watching legislation as it relates to SLIFE students because I'm always hopeful that there will be new funding tied to SLIFE students because we service a lot of students who come to us with interrupted education. So there was just an update in definition. SLIFE stands for Student with Limited or Interrupted Formal Education, and the state updated the definition during the 23-24 school year to an English learner who has at least 2 fewer years of schooling than their peers when entering school in the United States. That's just something I keep an eye on. You can imagine a student who has had less education than their peers. Maybe they didn't go to school since 4th grade and now they come here in 8th or 9th grade. But there's just different educational needs. So we do some really good programming. Mr. Lowry and Mr. Swatsky are really thoughtful about placing their schedules when they arrive. Here is the example of the language access plan. This shows up on page 43. The function of the language access plan is just to make sure that as a school district we are meeting language needs for our limited English proficiency parents. This is, I think, hard to do rurally. It looks like sometimes running into, we don't have an interpreter because the one we arranged is something came up, and how are we going to troubleshoot it? Do we need to look at maybe using language lines? We keep evaluating how is our interpreter services currently working, and is there a way we could get better? It talks about document translation and just responsibility of staff to use an interpreter whenever possible. And at this time, teachers who couldn't be here, some of them provided some information about what's happening at their grade level. I'm going to send it to Miss Lucy.
I wish I had my computer because I updated it today, but I bet you're not updated yet. I can give you a rough estimate. So I'm working right now with the pre-K, the kindergarten, and the first grade levels. In our first grade program, we had kind of a unique experience for me. We exited 5 kindergartners moving into first grade, and I came from a district where I was a 90-to-1 ratio and maybe exited 1 student in that time frame. So it was really exciting to be able to exit 5. And one of my favorite parts about working with that first grade model after I've been with kindergarten is I've seen how the letters training has matched up with some of their English skills, because many of our Chuukie's population comes in with some social language skills, right? So a lot of times you'll hear from a teacher, well, they already have some English, they already have English. But that academic language, they don't come to us with that. And so the beauty of it is that we get to take the letters training and create the reading model, and then also add the vocabulary piece where they're having gaps. I had to go sit in Robin's office this year and just show off a little bit. Nothing that I did, it's what our district is doing with letters training. I didn't have the opportunity to do letters training prior to coming to Lackawarra, and now I'm in year number 2, and I just love what I'm seeing. I love the way our teachers are utilizing our bilingual staff, and there's a vocabulary word. Most of them have it translated on the back of their cards in either Chuukese and Spanish, or for sure they've taken time to do the Chuukese pieces. And I think that that's one of the goals Kirsten and I are hoping to see continue to grow, is the utilization of our bilingual staff in the upper grade levels as well. We're a little bit spoiled on the front end because our kindergartners are kind of needy, and that's my next little topic of conversation. I'm only servicing 11 students in first grade right now. We have a little bit smaller number in first grade than we do in our second grade classroom. Kindergarten's looking like right around 20, and I would say some pretty intense needs, not only language but behavior. We had an unfortunate situation in kindergarten last year, actually in preschool last year, where we had some students come and didn't have room for them, or Head Start in our program was not able to take students. So I have about 10 kiddos right now that I'm really intensely focused on in small group with my bilingual paras, working to create language because they don't have the readiness skills for kindergarten that most of our kiddos were blessed to have. There just wasn't room for them in a preschool program. So they're working hard and they're sweet and loving, but it's hard to catch up 5 years of language experience. So we'll see how we do here with that game as it plays out. I just actually kind of inserted my foot officially into the pre-K program last week, which is exciting. They don't require us to spend hours and hours in the preschool program, which is great because we don't have hours to spend. But I'm working on the screening process right now for about 17 kiddos in that pre-K program. I'll know more after I do the screen how many of them qualify. My first take on just being in the classroom, getting to know the kids, working with the teachers, is that we're going to have a pretty high number qualify, just because this is a new tool we're using, and I think lots of new things for the kiddos. It's still the front end of the school year. My goal would be to have most of those pre-K screenings done before Thanksgiving. That might be lofty because it's a slow process and there's not a lot of time in my day to do screening. I think I covered most of those things. Questions for me, thoughts, ideas, concerns? No?
Thank you. Yeah, we as a EL program, the ML program, are really excited to start to partner with the preschool staff and see like how that collaboration can look, and just get in touch with our families sooner. The sooner that our families can learn school readiness skills, the sooner that our students can, the more successful they're going to be. So
I would like to share just a little bit. Our VPK program is one of the reasons that we are able to access them younger, or that we are asked to do that. In my previous district, I used to have to like sneak time in to go down to Head Start, to go down to the preschool programs, to just like see what was there. I don't have to. I just told Robin, hey Robin, I'm going to be in preschool this time of day in the morning, in preschool this time of day in the afternoon. I try not to let it interrupt the K1 academic, core classes. Try to sneak it in the beginning and sneak it in at the end, and hopefully model some things for teachers this year. That's one of our goals. Yeah. Thank you.
more to come.
Mm-hmm.
This is Kirsten Lindstrom. She works with our 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade. Robin talked about small group instruction. When you get to work in a smaller setting with a student is where you can really see their skills and then deliver interventions. MTSS, multi-tiered systems of support, is something the district is working on this year. And interventions, small group instruction is one way to kind of tier 2 work with kids who need a little more help. And Kirsten is an expert at this and delivers this in the, if you can imagine, once this a student hits 3rd grade, they're no longer learning to read, they are reading to to learn content. If that makes sense. It's no more about like, do you know what that word said? It's, did you comprehend what that paragraph was about? And so this is where differentiated instruction becomes really critical. If you have a student who joins us in 3rd grade and has no English, they're already behind quite significantly. So Pearson has a newcomer program that she already facilitates at this grade level, which is really important. This is Ms. Fisher, new to the middle school staff this year. She delivers English language development and language arts. So we have by proficiency level. You can imagine a new 5th or 6th grade student in the country, very limited or no English. They need a different language arts experience than a student who's ready to exit. These are kind of these goal grades. So she has 3 different language arts settings she delivers during the morning, and then helps with math interventions and a social studies is a hard content area for our language learners. So she delivers for our lowest language learners in 5th grade a pull-out content setting for social studies. We love her energy. She's doing a great job. Ms. Wendy works with our 7th and 8th grade students. English language development services at these grades is an elective. We work on academic skills. This is where we've started our junior high, high school career. So are we managing homework? On top of, if you are still an English learner at this age and you started kindergarten in our school district, why are we not exiting? So it actually delivers interventions to lowest language areas. Is it just speaking? Is it just writing? So she does a lot of assessment and deliver intervention. Reassess, how can I adjust, how can I adjust? We're excited to have her on staff. She's super detail oriented and techie, great with data. Here's me, here's what I wanted to tell you about 9-12 this year. So last year, I only got to directly service new to country students, or students who are newcomers, first 2 years in country. And all the rest of the students on that caseload were like, hey, is the ship burning? Let me know. I'll check in with you. I'll check in with your teacher. I wasn't able to move their language along. If you imagine a student sitting in a content class and our teachers, I don't go into classrooms anymore that are just lecture the whole period. Our teachers are using Turn and Talk, are using Write on Your Whiteboard. But still, in a class of 29, it's hard for me to get a lot of time to show my teacher what I'm learning. And so this year at the high school level now, by proficiency level, we're able to give English for credit for our high school, 9-12. So I have a beginner group, an intermediate group, and then several advanced groups. We're hoping that those advanced students, they are experts on their access scores. Like, dude, you are a 3.6. Your goal is 4.5. You're not using commas correctly, and let's work on pronouns. And they are the authors of their learning path. So it's so fun to partner for the older students and help them set their own goals and get them there. So that is new at the 9-12 level. This year, I have been kept so beautifully busy by content gen ed staff asking for help. How do I create this assessment? How do we reach out to these parents? I foresee us on the news someday. We're just doing something really special out here with our multicultural parents and the way that our staff is positively responding. Anecdotally, I have lots of Yale students this year with honor roll potential. I think that says something about the quality of education, because you can't get honor roll just for getting a good grade in one of your classes. That speaks about overall. So can't wait to report that to you. That's it. Any questions about that leaked document or the ML programming?
If I can just add, it's been really fun to see too, the focus on, the ELL team has been coming in and working with the high school on, most recently on, as she mentioned, altering assessments and things, but what I've been present as that's going on, people are highly engaged, having great conversations. The team's done a fantastic job, and the building's really been putting it to work as well. It's been exciting to see.
News story.
That's right. Any other questions? Thank you very much, guys.
I think we just motion everybody.
Art, any questions or concerns about the leap? I'll take the motion to approve. Motion by Scott. Second by Eric. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 14.0 is the snow removal quotes. Appleton, Mylan, and Madison, and Vanessa. Those are some of them, right? So, page 57. So for Madison, Mary Vanessa. We've got Elite Seamless. And for the Appleton Island, postgraduate tassels.
Where's this Elite Seamless out of?
They live on Highway 75 just south of Madison.
So they are local.
Kind of. He has a crew that does this, but he wants to keep his crew busy for the winter months. So he's promoting that.
Make a motion to approve topple snow removal for Appleton Mylan and Elite Seamless for my men's site and bus garages.
Okay, any motion by Scott,
I'll second.
second by Danny. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 15.0 is a resolution for funds from the Minnesota State High School Foundation.
So, yeah, I mean, we can go ahead and look at the exhibit, it's also on the page here, but essentially, we need the board to approve for us to be able to request funds from the foundation to offset the cost of excellence.
Motion by Danny,
Second.
second by Shannon. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. 16.0 is the technology update with Dave.
All right, good evening, boards. Just going to bring you up to speed from the summer to now. So over the summer, the biggest change that we had is our internet provider that we co-opted through LCTM dissolved over the summer. So did an RFP, went out through another company, and now our internet is going through ECMEC, East Central Minnesota, something collaborative. So it shows for good potential, a large savings of what we were previously paying for maybe some services that we weren't getting through ECMEC, but we just needed the internet connection. I think it's a positive change. Happened seamlessly over the summer, and I don't think anyone other than me really knew it happened, so everything's going great. The other big thing was a cloud Wi-Fi controller. My Wi-Fi controllers are end of life, so they need to be updated. We use an E-rate that pays out for 80% reimbursement, so that got replaced over the summer and is ready to go by first day of school. Kind of a couple things that we're working on throughout the school year when time allows is biggest thing is kind of go through our infrastructure and get an update of where we're at. Obviously with the elementaries and the referendums, they're sitting in prime condition and shouldn't really need to touch anything in those buildings for some time. Out in this building, we have an intercom system that was original to the building. In 2012, I did a retrofit project that upgraded the head end, the controller, if you will, of the intercom system because it was failing. It was a Duquesne system, and they were out of business in the mid-90s. So the system was kind of old when it was put in the building new. So
Didn't work either.
yeah. So as over time, the last 12 years here, the speakers have started degrading in quality. It's hard to hear in gyms. Some classrooms are louder, quieter. So that's something that's definitely going to have to be at the forefront of looking to replace that system somehow. So I'll be working on getting some quotes and bids on that. And the other big thing out in this building is the structural cabling and network drops. They're all original, I'm assuming from when they were installed in the late 90s. Some of them are longer than the 300 feet recommended Ethernet length. So, because everything is central back to this closet, so when we get to a long run, it's causing issues. And the biggest issues like wireless access points. They can do more throughput than a gigabit Ethernet. They can do 2.5, 4, 6, 8, 10 gigabit throughput. So there's only one cable going to them. So we'd be looking at somehow doing structural cabling projects in the future. Again, that's something that's also being able to be paid for by E-rate funding. It'll pay up for 80% of the cost. I'm estimating like 400 to 500 drops in this building, and it would be something I would probably get a bid for doing it all at once, and probably another bid and staging it over 2 or 3 years to kind of keep those costs low, so it's not such a huge expense right away. The other project that we'll be working on throughout the year is our company that hosts our website. The contract with them is due up at the end of the year. Currently looking at our communication platform, Parent Square. They acquired a company in 2023, Gabber Communications, that specializes in websites. They have it up and running, and it directly integrates with Parent Square. It looks like to be a good fit and a cost savings there also. So that's kind of where I'm going at this year with big projects, if you will. Otherwise, everything's maintaining and going good. Anyone have any questions?
Questions for Dave?
So we could utilize the safe school monies to update the intercom, portions of the intercom, correct?
Correct.
But not the drops.
Correct.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. 17.0 is the Bourne Learning Trail update.
Hi, so I was I came here twice, but I first started kind of throwing around the idea of a Bourne Learning Trail in March, and I'm happy to report it's done, except for one sign that I just have to put up. But we're just going to watch a little video kind of recapping the collaboration of it, and then we can kind of go through it, or if you have any questions. Yep.
It's not.
Sound and no picture.
All right. We'll get back.
project went. We had over 20 kids involved with it, 7 adults. I don't know if you noticed, our mayor, Greg Thole, he brought his edger and helped with that. The kids came up with the designs for each sign. Kind of has a little thing that you're supposed to do, it talks about like a tree or something. And so the kids came up with the ideas. We didn't have them do the designs because we didn't want it to look like kids' drawings. So adults did like the stenciling and stuff, but then they filled in the colors, and it ended up being a $2,700 project. And so Kiwanis paid $500 or donated $500, and then the Madison Community Foundation, I wrote a grant for that, and that was $1,000. So that $1,500 took care of the signs that we had to purchase. And then the Blandon Foundation, which was through Chris Shelsted at the Merck, she got a grant, and that paid for the paint, which was over $1,000 as well. The paint is special for cement. I guess mural artists utilize it. I had to go to Sioux Falls to get it, and it was over $90 a gallon. So we have paint left over for each year. We plan to just touch it up. Thankfully, this is an area where not a lot of high traffic, so I don't think salt will go on the sidewalk. So it should have longevity. And then you guys paid $200, and I went over budget by $2. But that was to help. We got paintbrushes, rollers. We bought that all local through Hardware Hank in Madison. And then there was a little bit of a wasp problem, but we bought some spray and took care of that. So, yeah. The preschool's been utilizing it, the daycare, kids' time, and the community. So it's really been great to see it come along. Does anybody have any questions?
No, very nice though. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, move on to 18.0, the building updates. Maureen, anything to highlight?
Oh, both kind of hit it all, and we're off it, and good things happening.
Scott?
Just a couple things to note. The paving of the tennis courts is underway and should be done by the end of the week. And then that'll all shut down then for the winter. I also wanted the board just to be aware of something that I've been looking into and been in conversation with our insurance provider over at Klein Insurance, is just keeping an eye on the potential need for builder's risk insurance, which we don't currently have. Essentially, builder's risk, for those of you who may not be familiar with it, just basically covers us while a project is not completed, but all the stuff is out there to build it or whatever, if there was to be theft or damage or things like that. They're helping us to keep an eye on that. Right now, we feel like we're covered under our current insurance adequately, but we're just gonna keep reevaluating that as different stages of the project come along. So I just wanted the board to be in the loop on that. We had our first meet and confer today, and that was very successful. Flexible learning year calendars were reviewed. We also had our first flexible learning year public hearing today, so we've got one of the 3 checked off. And the last thing I just wanted to make the board aware of is that we met with the Lackaparle County Mental Health Collaborative, which is not just our district, it includes Dawson and the law enforcement community, and we looked at the possibility of trying to hold a family health fair in February, and it would be in Dawson, and it would coincide with when Lackaparle plays Dawson in basketball. And it would basically just be kind of an opportunity for people as they're coming into the game to see what free resources or community resources are out there just to help keep families strong. So that is what that group is doing. So if you hear about that, that is what it is. And I think that is all I have.
Any questions for Scott? Yeah. Anything else for this evening? Right now, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Shannon,
I'll second.
second by Matt. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.